Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode.
Working on OpenShift
And sometimes
we haven't.
This is so
we
awesome.
are an open culture that believes
It's actually
in
a
the
big
importance of
piece of the
transparency.
component for your GitOps work.
Everybody has something that they can say.
On top of the Red Hat portfolio.
All right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to another episode of GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. I will be your captain, Christian. So today I have a co-captain. My co-captain today, I don't know which way the camera's pointing. I think I could go like this. Is Shoubhik Bose. So Shoubhik Bose is a principal software engineer at Red Hat. One of the guys I'm always bugging about OpenShift GitOps. He's one of the main guys I try to try not to bother too much, but as he knows, I'm a little bit opinionated, and I'm always get excited when he talks about GitOps. So Shoubhik, how are you doing today? How's Diwali treating you?
Doing great. I think have some plans in the evening for Diwali, but so far I'm here right now with all of you, enjoying Diwali with GitOps for a change.
Nice. There you go. Yes, exactly. So thank you for joining us. So today's topic, right? We're going to talk about OpenShift GitOps version 1.3. I like all the new things that we get with OpenShift GitOps version 1.3, and kind of like a look into the future. A lot of people ask, and also like in the community, it's like, hey, I installed Argo on OpenShift, and it's kind of like, kind of acting weird. It's like, well, did you install it via the operator? You go, oh no, I just installed Argo. So, I always like to bring up OpenShift GitOps because it is the entry point on how to get Argo CD installed on OpenShift. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the headaches used to configure Argo is taken out of the way. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about a few things, kind of top of mind sort of things. First and foremost, I think, and I will put it here in the chat, ArgoCon, the schedule is out. So there it is. So there is the ArgoCon schedule. If you want to take a look, I threw it in the chat there. I have a talk, so kind of a selfish plug. I have a talk there on ArgoCon. I'm talking about stateful applications and GitOps because that's always a hot topic, right? I've talked about it on the show before, and if you want to catch that episode, the past episodes are on the YouTube playlist. So another thing I want to talk about is, let's see if I could find it real quick, is the GitOps Con itself. The videos now are on YouTube. So let me find that playlist. There we go. Found it. Let me put that in the chat as well. So this playlist here is everything that went down in GitOps Con. GitOps Con was something that the CNCF Open GitOps project, which Red Hat takes a part of, we put on as a day zero event. All the talks are up there. Great talks. I gave a talk, another selfish plug. So if you want to, actually about another project that Shoubhik is on about pipeline as code, but we'll talk about that maybe at another day. Have a whole episode about pipeline as code. So you can check that out as well.
Yeah, your talk was good. So yes, do check that out.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out. So if you don't know when I say pipeline as code, you guys are a little confused. That's actually a good intro. I did a talk, great intro about pipeline as code and kind of the idea behind getting your CI as GitOpsified. I guess it would be a good way to say it here. And kind of to round it out here, for those of you, friend and colleague started a kind of a developer group, right, in the WIT network, right, Women in Technology. If you want to check that out, if you want, she's done a lot of great work there. If you're a developer, engineer, or whatever, you want to join a great community, that's a great community there. I promised her I'd mention that on the stream today. So I think it's great. last but not least, selfish plug, because as you know, Shoubhik, I'm not ashamed of doing a plug here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. It's it's my show. Why not? Speaking of open source and Argo CD in the upstream community, I have a little pet project called GoKP. That is it's an idea about a GitOps friendly Kubernetes platform. So this is kind of like a pet project of mine. I've already put it on Reddit. So if you guys want to join the Open GitOps Reddit, it's right there. So you can see my post there about it if you want to get more involved. And also, if you want to get involved in Reddit, there's already Reddit hate on it, which that means it's great. I love Reddit hate. That's exactly what I wanted, right? I wanted feedback, right? Sometimes the hate is good. So I think that's it. With that, I think I've talked enough. Shoubhik, what do you have for us with regards to OpenShift GitOps? OpenShift GitOps, what is it? What is this new update? What do you see in the future? What do you got for us? What do you got? Some inside information?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. So I think we are probably running with OpenShift GitOps and not just walking or crawling right now. So I think
full
things
sprint,
change,
right?
full sprint, and things change
Yeah.
every day. Like while I'm talking, we are doing a release right now. And
Yeah,
so while I'm
there you
talking,
go.
we are going to have a new release in a few days. So yeah, I think we're seeing a bunch of changes going into OpenShift GitOps, both from the perspective of how you run GitOps, how you run the GitOps control plane, just so that admins are a lot more comfortable doing that, to actually ensuring that in the long term, when it's running on your cluster, it's not killing your cluster, because you have a ton of developers who are putting things to sync from Git to your clusters. So we are doing a bunch of improvements on how you install it, how you configure it securely, to how do you manage the performance over time. And today I'm going to talk about a bunch of those. I'm actually going to ensure that you have some context about some of the different caching mechanisms and what are the things we're doing to make them better.
There you go.
As well as talking about how do you make every service securely talk to each other in the control plane. So I think irrespective of whether you're a developer or an admin in the audience, there's a lot of interesting things that are going on, which I'll talk about today.
Sweet. So I think actually, one of the engineers, Jonathan, I think his name was, made a great post about. He has like a README somewhere about like how the caching works. Argo CD. Let me find to see if I can share that with the people, because I think I read that and I was like, oh, this is.
There's a lot going on there, and I think
there's a lot going on. It's like I didn't even realize it. Yeah. Actually, they do have it here. Let me find it. See, this may be old, maybe not. Who knows? But I put that in the chat so you guys can check it out.
Yeah, but it's going to be definitely helpful as something about a point-in-time caching mechanism. So yeah.
Okay. So
I think I'll probably go ahead with showing what I've got.
See here. We're waiting, doing technical things here, trying to share the screen as always. Yeah, so if you look at this is kind of weird. So if you look down, it looks like your share screen is disabled, but it's actually not disabled. You actually have to click on it. I don't know if you see it.
You want me to? I see a stop screen sharing here.
Okay. So if you stop and then restart it.
Yeah, let me just try it out.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has shown up. You can see it now, Christian?
Let's see here. Yes. There we go.
Awesome. That tip helped. Have you tried turning it off and on?
There you go. Always right.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Christian. So yeah, I think we'll dive straight into this. Today, we'll be talking about some of the salient improvements we've done in OpenShift GitOps 1.3. It won't be demo heavy. Rather, it'll be a lot of conversation heavy and slides heavy, but not from
Yep.
general slides. I'd like to ensure I use this opportunity to tell the audience how a lot of things work inside OpenShift GitOps and Argo CD, and how things are improving over time. And if you see something that's not working, you kind of will get a hint of why something is not working. So which is why I dive into some of the details in this show. So let's see, next slide. So a quick recap. What is OpenShift GitOps? So the charter of OpenShift GitOps is very simple. You read manifests from Git, you look for equivalent resources on the cluster, determine if they're different, if they're present. If they're not present, they're definitely different. And if you see there's something different, just shout out out of sync. And then if it's out of sync, it's going to reconcile to your desired state. And then you're going to repeat this till eternity. And that's all OpenShift GitOps is going to do for you for a bunch of complex Kubernetes YAMLs that you're going to put in your Git repository. Now, what is OpenShift GitOps really? It's basically, it packages Argo CD in a way that you could deploy with multiple deployment topologies. And Argo CD engine is the one that ensures that this charter we have on the left is well taken care of. So before I go to this slide, I'd like to show this. So yeah, so what's OpenShift GitOps? So we have different modes of, so if you know what Argo CD is, this is going to be a little helpful for you then. OpenShift GitOps ensures you can effectively deploy Argo CD in multiple variants of topologies. One is where you effectively have cluster configuration done across your own whole cluster using a central mechanism, which is Argo CD on your cluster. The other is effectively when you say, hey, I have a nice development team who needs an Argo CD. And yes, we can do that for you with OpenShift GitOps, which works within the isolation of specific namespaces. And of course, the other mechanism is, hey, I've got these 100 clusters sitting out there, and I need to centrally sit and manage all of these. So you could have OpenShift GitOps on one cluster and manage 100 clusters using those, even though you may not necessarily be managing your own cluster with it. So these are the different mechanisms which OpenShift GitOps makes it easy for you to use on an OpenShift cluster with Argo CD.
Yeah, the guys at Intuit, right? I had them on, and they're actually doing that whole central hub push mechanisms for hundreds of clusters, right? Hundreds of clusters, thousands of applications. So it actually, if you're worried about scale, don't worry about scale, because Intuit beats it up a lot.
Yep, absolutely. If you've done a bunch of financial transactions online, you've definitely gone through a system which has been powered by Argo CD and Intuit. So
yeah, especially here in the US, where when tax season comes, they get pretty.
Right. So before we go deeper into different things, I had to show this customary slide, which thanks to William Tam, who started putting this up a few days ago, and I had to show this. So we are at 1.3.1 now. And this is the map of the different component versions. You don't have to memorize this, but in case you need it sometimes, you're going to put it on OpenShift docs. And we're going to ensure that you have a way to get to this. But the idea is, if sometimes you suddenly feel, hey, this seems to be not working, but it should have been working, which version do I have on? A reference like this is going to come handy, and I'm going to share this with you as well.
Sweet. Yeah, that's a great matrix, by the way, because I'm always asked, like, which version are you on? Well, what OpenShift version? Yeah, so it's good to know. Matrix, people love matrices. So.
Oh yeah, like it looks scary when you look at it, but then if you need it, it's your best friend. It's kind
exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and install OpenShift GitOps on my cluster. Again, it's a refresher to ensure we all know how the installation experience looks like. Can you see my OpenShift screen? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, can you make it a little bigger? Control plus. There we go. Cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to Operator Hub. Type OpenShift. Oops. Yeah, I try OpenShift GitOps. Neat tile out here.
I need that logo on a T-shirt, man.
I know.
I'm gonna have, I'm trying to, like, I know corporate doesn't like logos like that on a T-shirt, but I really want one.
This looks good. Yeah. So yeah, I think as soon as you go in here, it gives you a nice clean install button. It'll basically give you a bunch of information here itself. But effectively, we just go we're just going to go ahead and hit install. We're not going to choose any other options along the way. We're just going to say install, and while
Same defaults, right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then I think while this is happening, I'm going to quickly give you an overview of what's happening out here, in case you're an admin who wants to peel the layers and want to know, what's happening behind the scenes. So this effectively is going in and installing an operator or a controller for you to manage Argo CD control planes itself. And then it's going to also install an Argo CD for you to manage cluster configuration. What that means is if you just provision the cluster and you need to basically set up user management and a bunch of these things, this will ensure that it does all of that for you. This will ensure your Argo CD is warmed up to do all that for you, to be precise. Sorry about that. So yeah, I see that it's installed. I'm going to wait for maybe 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds, to ensure behind the scenes the Argo CD is actually coming up.
Yes.
But we can go ahead and check that out.
So it looks so while that's actually looks like there's a question here that talks about, hope this version fixes the missing permission for Argo CD to deploy in any namespace. Installed GitOps operator 1.3.0 and getting a namespace not being managed, right? I think that was addressed in 1.3.1, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be there in
time to upgrade. Yeah.
Time to upgrade. Absolutely.
Yes.
That fixes in there. Yeah. So I'm running 1.3.1 now, as I showed you. So yeah, you should have this definitely. Okay, I see a bunch of things running here.
There we go. That's always a good sign.
I can still see something is not yet ready, but it's ready now. Awesome. But let's try it out. Worst case, it's not going to work. Nothing more than that.
Yes. Worst case doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Which people like saying, by the way. It's always a weird thing. People love it when things break live.
Right.
Including myself. So I mean, it's like it's a human thing.
Awesome. So right here, I've got OpenShift GitOps installed. For those who haven't seen it in the past, and I'm going to go and click here. And then, yeah, awesome. It just told me that I need to authorize OpenShift GitOps to use my OpenShift authentication to log into GitOps.
So this is one of those things, right, where it's like, this is the value of using the operator, because the operator does all this for you. This used to be a very manual step. It's like setting up DEX with OIDC, or setting up OIDC directly, or setting up with SSO, right? Now it's just all integrated. If you go to the user tab, it actually shows that you're you're kube admin, right? So like all that information comes through, which is pretty cool. This is one of the values you get, right, with the operator, automatic setup.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, so we have this installed, and then you can do a bunch of interesting things. So I think this is one of the first things which I wanted to show folks, that you don't necessarily have to go in and install Red Hat SSO to be able to log in with OpenShift. Of course, you could if you wanted to do that, because Red Hat SSO gives you a bunch of other powerful features which you wouldn't have without it. But if you are looking for a simple login and pull in the groups, this will just work for you. With that, I'll go back to slides for some time so that I can set up more context for more things. So yeah, one of the first key things we did is, we're trying to ensure that a whole login, authentication, and authorization experience is a lot more smooth than it has been in the past. So we are actually executing on multiple fronts on that. We ensured this time we actually added support for DEX only for the OpenShift login bits. So I think a quick disclaimer, do not use DEX for other purposes other than OpenShift GitOps login with OpenShift and authorization with OpenShift. That's my disclaimer. But yeah.
Asterisk, right? Yes, you can use it, but only with OpenShift GitOps.
Yes, please. Yeah. Right. So we have that here. Here's, like, if you are interested in looking how the CR looks like, you've probably seen this already with the community operator. This supported again. We have the policies set up out of the box so that you don't have to worry about them. And interestingly, if you are somebody who already has, Red Hat SSO set up in your customer environment, or you have a Keycloak setup which you want to reuse, you could potentially use that as well. And because I think some key improvements are happening in that space, it's not available right now, but it's going to be shipped in a month or so. The Red Hat SSO or Keycloak is going to have support for syncing of OpenShift groups into Argo CD. For those interested, the change has already been merged. So it's there, it's been tested. You're probably just waiting for the next release of Red
The
Hat SSO
actual
to have that
release,
feature. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we need to test software, so I mean,
Right.
I mean, yeah. So it's coming. So we want to make sure it passes all the
Developers
green,
have
right?
tested it, has to go a little beyond
Yes.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it has to go through CI, right? So
Yeah.
let's do that. Showing green.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we have this improvement, and then there's another work in progress improvement, which are going to land onto your cluster soon. We're going to continue improving this, but then the general idea, and my slide is a bit messed up on the left. No worries. Uh, well, it's YAML, right? When you type
Yeah,
YAML, that's the problem.
If someone can look at it and say that's invalid YAML, I'm gonna give them a prize
I
because
know.
I only know it when there's an error. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah,
It didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. That's the only time I know.
Yeah, so I think one of the requests that we've got that we should be running the GitOps control plane on nodes which have been designated as infra nodes, and we wanted to make a lot of progress on that, and we've made a ton of progress on that. But yeah, do expect improvements. But right now we've got something for you, which is there is a top level GitOps service that we've always hidden from all of you, and we're going to gradually open that up. The idea is the cluster config GitOps instance is the only one which we'll allow right now to move around to infra nodes. Because if you did that with the others, we might get into weird territory where developers are moving the stuff around in different nodes where they should not be doing that. So yeah, in general, what we are going to do is we have something called GitOps service resource, which gets bootstrapped for all of you on your clusters all the time. You probably just haven't checked it. But if you go there, you will see there's a resource called GitOps service cluster that is on your clusters already. If you have installed OpenShift GitOps, you can now put run on infra true after attaching the right labels on your nodes, and it's going to move your workloads onto that node. Further, if you have toleration set up, you could even specify that on that resource.
Look at that.
This will only impact your cluster config GitOps instance for obvious reasons.
So nice. So this is it was a kind of like a hidden object. Now you're kind of like opening up that object to control where those workloads land, right? So for those that don't know, that are using OpenShift, there's a concept of infrastructure nodes, and if you're using infrastructure nodes, they don't count against the subscription, right? So they're free. They're free cores, right? We don't charge for those. So to free up some of those resources that like Argo CD takes on, now we're adding the ability to kind of, all right, let's move those workload, those like Argo CD, like the Argo CD repo controller, right? Or the
the
Git controller,
application controller repo server.
Yeah, the application set server. Yeah, like all those stuff that's needed to run Argo. Cool.
Yeah, the idea is that if you're paying for OpenShift, you should be paying for the applications you deploy on.
Yeah,
applications
exactly.
we deploy on as part of the control plane. And,
yes.
And this kind of fixes that. So yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, please do expect a lot of improvements, non-breaking improvements happening in this space, just to ensure that we can gradually run a control plane isolated on a set of nodes that should not be counting towards your subscription. With that, we're going to move ahead with some of the security enhancements. But before that, I think you were just talking about this, Christian, a while ago, different components of Argo CD. So roughly we've got the application controller, the repo server, the Argo CD API server. These are all different components that live on the control plane today. And if you are an admin who has installed OpenShift GitOps, just so that your other admins can go ahead and configure it to have GitOps used for the cluster, or if you are an admin who's allowed other developers to install their own Argo CD instances, you would definitely be concerned about one thing. The control plane better be secure, because if the control plane is not secure, you could potentially do an escalation of privilege into everything else. So which is why we are constantly investing behind the scenes on how to integrate good security practices in the control plane, which should really be boring for all of you. It should not really be something you should care about. But if you do care about, I'm going to talk about some of the tuning, some of the knobs that you can turn to provide specific levels of security. Right. So let's talk about the routes. I think we've got a bunch
okay.
of we've had a
Yeah.
bunch of feedback on this. And I see again a place where my YAML should have been a little better formatted.
A little bit, yeah, but it's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so in general, the first thing which I'd like to mention is in OpenShift today we have an amazing model of securing routes and services, and this is going to ensure, and this capability that I'm going to talk to you about now is going to ensure you're able to use that in the way you think would work for your setup. On that note, when you actually went in and installed OpenShift GitOps, you could basically go in and open the console, or you had a bunch of services you had there. Now we want to ensure that anything that's exposed to the internet is well secured. Anything that's not exposed to the internet should also be secured. What that means is any intra-service communication happening in the control plane should be as secure as anything that's outside. We call it zero
Yes.
trust, right? So that's the
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, I think here are the different things. Like when you say pass through, that's effectively where your encrypted requests from the outside world to your control plane is going to go directly to the service encrypted. That's called pass through. That's what the default is today. We did not want that to be the default one. We actually wanted re-encrypt to be the default, to be
Re-encrypt, yeah.
very frank, but we did not
Yeah.
do it because we assume we are sure that a lot of our users, customers would have something set up. We didn't want to break that.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. If you can find a nicer way to make that a default with a very cleaner migration for folks who already have something, we're going to do it in the
Yeah.
upcoming releases.
Yeah.
But the good news is, if you are looking for something like re-encrypt, so I think I'll quickly go over the differences between the three of them. So edge is basically where your traffic is decrypted from the encrypted state into the edge of your network before the traffic reaches your internal services. That's called edge. Re-encrypt is when it's basically intercepted at your edge and then re-encrypted when you're sending it to your internal service. That's called re-encrypt. Now, of course, pass-through is when you don't decrypt it at all at the edge. You just send it and let the service deal with it.
Yeah, it's
So of course,
basically like
yeah.
basically TCP socket, right? And it's just the actual service itself. They're actually Argo CD pod or whatever handles the encryption, right? Versus so basically is this encryption is like basically where the encryption and decryption happens, right? Because
Correct.
Depending on what you're doing, you care, right? You care where it happens, right? So
Right.
No, I can see that update, by the way, is very useful for me because part of my job is I create a lot of training content, and some of these platforms, they don't like it when you don't like when you do a pass through, right? And like the edge router wants to do it doesn't
It
trust that
doesn't like
certificate.
pass through.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it doesn't like pass through, and it's just
Like
like,
I'm
okay,
there
well,
for a reason, and you're passing
yeah.
through.
Yeah, exactly. So this is really cool.
Yeah, so I think since we're talking about different services, I think I'm going to use this diagram to kind of show what are the different components. So, so the API server is something that's fairly exposed because so there is an Argo CD server that's actually a little more exposed. In general, your controller is probably the only non-HTTP thing. The others are all either HTTP or gRPC, and you want to ensure that all of these are actually secure. And so if you want, you could actually go into your setup. Let me see if I can show you which exact place you should be doing this. So you could actually go in here and route enable true. You could actually go in and modify these with one of the options that you would have here. And here are the three options you have. You didn't have so many options in the past, but yeah, these would just work. And a key important thing, just to kind of explain why some of this has not been trivial in the past, is that with re-encrypt, you also need to teach the router, or rather you also need to ensure that your internal service is trusting the traffic from your router. So you actually need the internal service to have in its possession the CA certificate.
Hmm.
And the Argo CD server today, that component, let me see if I can show you that component here. Um, so I go to my deployments. So there is this server component here. So you need to ensure that this component has the right TLS certificates configured for it. Why? This is where your OpenShift CA has to land.
Yep.
You cannot just give it an OpenShift CA and it'll know where to pick it up from. Why? Because this is the service which actually has to trust the OpenShift external router, because that's what we do in re-encrypt. And
Yeah.
this update actually not only gives you the certificates, it tells Argo CD, here's where you need to look for OpenShift CA certificates, one, and it also ensures your route is configured with the right certificate pair so that external requests can be encrypted. So it does a bunch of things behind the scenes when you're actually going for this one, going for the termination as re-encrypt. And in the future, we're going to also come up with better migration mechanisms between these, primarily because um, you may have a situation where you went for re-encrypt, but for some reason you would want to go back to edge. Today, and we're going to document these, there are a bunch of manual steps, not a bunch of manual steps. You have to really remove the old certificate before you move to the edge one. And the main reason we want to do this is we don't want to mess with something that you put in yourself,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
something that OpenShift put in. This is just to, some of these are boring details, but I just wanted to let you know that these things have been considered when we design this. So what that means is you can safely go in and turn these knobs, put it to re-encrypt, and ensure that you have multi-level encryption set up, or you could go to edge and ensure that it's an edge setup, or you could live with pass-through the way it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So and it's really dependent on what also what like industry you're in, right? What vertical you're working on. Because for me, I've always liked edge, right? Because it's like if someone gets into my network, then if someone's
Yeah,
sniffing my Argo CD traffic, I have bigger problems, right? Or they're like
right,
I guess a dumb person because there's much more interesting things on my network. But I can, but that's not to say that like re-encrypt is probably like the best thing, right? Because you have zero trust, right? Like like I only trust this specific certificate that you're giving me to decrypt the traffic, and so then it gets encrypted, decrypted, it encrypted again, going. So you have like an end-to-end encryption. And I think if you can swing that, I think that's like the way to go, right? Don't be lazy
right.
like me, is what I'm saying.
And the best thing is, Christian, the best thing is OpenShift actually provides a bunch of those certificate generation mechanisms.
Yeah, out of the
So
box. Yeah.
yeah, and which is very cool, I would say, to be honest. Like as an OpenShift user, sometimes when I deploy a simple Go REST application, I'm like, damn, I need cert, I need certs for these, and then you just need to put in an annotation and it's there. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's 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 pretty cool. I think the general considerations I would do in probably some of the large installations would be, do you care about the fact that when you re-encrypt, there is an extra CPU intense operation that's happening? If you
Mhm.
don't, then you're good. But I think beyond
Every
that,
yeah.
re-encrypt is the way
Everything's
to
a
go.
cost, right? Yeah, if you're
Right.
encrypting that, there's a cost of CPU, definitely.
Yeah. Right. With that, there is another area that we have to secure, and you're probably not exposed to this component of OpenShift GitOps or Argo CD, but I'm going to again go back to this diagram. So there's something called a repo server on the right here. That is the component which talks to Git. It caches a bunch of the stuff that you have on Git. It basically knows how to talk to Git, and it ensures and it is basically your gateway to the world of Git internally. So, which is why it is of prime importance to ensure that we encrypt that traffic that goes there as well. Um, so, which is why you could actually specify, an AutoTLS called OpenShift for your repo section in your Argo CD config, and that will ensure that you have secure traffic directed to your Argo CD repo server component. By default, we keep it as true so that you don't have to make a choice and it's boring for you. But of course, for whatever reason, if you don't like it, you have to go and attest that verified TLS false, which is I'm happily making it insecure because as you've probably heard in OpenShift, we are secure by default. To go for non-secure is an option you choose, not something that's
well, we let you make that mistake. Yeah, right.
That's a good
you
way
have
of
to
saying
consciously
it.
make that. Yes, yeah. So does that auto? So I actually have a question. So now this is me being the end user. So this AutoTLS OpenShift, does that mean it just takes whatever OpenShift's whatever OpenShift trusts and puts it in that
right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for so for those that don't know, so in OpenShift, if you have in your environment, if you have the the if you have like a self-signed certificate, right? So a lot of places have their own custom CA server, right, internally, and their own, and they use that to sign all their certificates. You can actually upload that to OpenShift and have OpenShift trust it, right? So in this, it sounds like this option, what it's doing is saying, all right, whatever OpenShift's trusting, I'm going to trust it as well. So then that way, when you connect to those Git repos, you automatically trust it with those with that certificate.
Correct. Yes, and the most important bit here is that you actually ensure that OpenShift is going to renew those certificates at the right time for you and ensure that it's made available for your components. So you wouldn't be in a situation where it expires and you're stuck, which you would probably be if you're doing it yourself. So that's a huge advantage we have in OpenShift in general. This feature knows effectively how to utilize that and ensure that you're running a secure repo server, which some may argue that, well, nobody is exposed to this service apart from Argo CD itself, but why do we care? But then, if you're going through an audit of your systems, I'm pretty sure you would care, but even without that, you should care, I would say.
Yeah, there's actually a question, and I'm not sure if you know. I kind of know this answer. So so Waleed, by the way, Waleed, welcome. He's a long time. He was there since the beginning, let's say. So he says that can you explain the certificate annotation? Not sure if I've used this in the past. Is it OpenShift specific? Let's encrypt something else.
Yeah, so that is OpenShift specific, and I'm going to actually show it to you right away. Yes, this is OpenShift specific. This is not Let's Encrypt. And since we're talking about security, I'll probably take 30 seconds to go through it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Let me try to bring this up.
There you go. This is ad hoc demos. So
absolutely,
this is what we love. This is what Lead always brings to the table. He brings the ad hoc demos.
Yeah. That's lovely. Right. So let's see if I have the right services in here.
Oh, there we go. You have to pick one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just go ahead with something that we have in the docs. That's going to be nice and quick. Yeah.
Can you Control plus this a little bit? Make it a little bigger.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
You know what? I'm going to try one more time to find the right one I'm looking for.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do it live, as they say.
Oh, awesome! I have something here. So let's take a look at this YAML, right? So if you so these are the annotations that would effectively. So if you put in this annotation in here, you would actually have the OpenShift cluster provide you a certificate for your service, make it available in a config map, and ensure that you can then mount it onto your pod. So all you have to do to request it is provide an annotation on your service. And what that tells you, and what that tells the OpenShift controller is that, hey, somebody is requesting to have their service secured. And let's issue this person a set of keys or certificates and ensure that person has it. So in this case, let's take a look at what we have here.
Yeah, so that basically says, hey, I need a certificate, give it to me, and then the controller will provide that for you in a config map, it sounds like.
Yeah. So for
Oh, they
example,
did
in
that.
this case, the controller actually went in and generated this CS certificate for me so that I could actually use it to ensure other services can
Mhm.
trust me. Now, where did this CS certificate come? It came from the OpenShift system that gives me these certificates. What that
Mhm.
means is that if I'm deploying on OpenShift and I want to have secure traffic coming to it, I can not only ensure that I have the right certificates, I also have the CS certificate that other people can trust me about. And to be able to do that, you're effectively using this annotation, which I just showed you here, which is this one, which is
There you go.
this. Yeah.
Sweet. Like that.
So yeah, I think if I had to speak from a non-GitOps context for a moment, I would say just go ahead and go to your developer console, deploy a deploy a Node.js application from Git, and a service will be created for you out of the box. Just add this single one annotation, and you're going to have these certificates show up on your namespace. You just need to mount them into your pod or your deployment, and you're good. It
Yeah.
should be that simple.
Sweet. Yeah. So that's actually pretty cool. It saves a lot of the guesswork, right? In
Yeah.
trying to, we say we're secure by default, right? Like now we're passing that on to you, right? As a
Yes.
developer, right? It's just like, hey, here, like we'll give you everything you need. Pretty cool.
And there's a funny bit on that, right? Which is
Mhm.
these I think have an expiry of 24 months. After which it would automatically but it actually renews these every 13 months. So which
Mhm.
means you have a good 11 months to restart your
Mhm.
application to pick up the new certificates in
Yeah.
case you
There
have
you
not.
go.
So which means you will never be in a position where your certificate has expired if that has happened to you in the past with some other systems.
Which tells you deploy often, so that way you always get
Yeah.
the latest certificate.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't deployed something for 13 months, you're
Yeah.
probably in a good state already. Your application is super stable, but then you might have other problems if you never restart it.
There is an absolute great question in the chat, right? Um, so the question is there plan to support something like Argo rollouts, or is there another path to Canary releases? So this is you have the um, perfect person on for this here to see.
Thank
So
you.
what is the plan for Canary releases, right? So for those of you who don't know, Argo project, right, is a collection of tool sets, right? Argo CD being one of them, probably the main one. But there's other ones like Argo rollouts, Argo workflows. There's an Argo image updater, right? That Jan is a big contributor on. So what is the plan in terms of having Canary releases handled with GitOps?
Yeah, I think right now we are actually exploring what we should be adopting for our customers all the
Mhm.
time. So we do have some folks who actually use Argo rollouts while they have OpenShift GitOps installed, and that works great.
Mhm.
We did dabble with some of these strategies with deployment config initially. It does solve a tiny amount of use cases, but it still does solve them. But yeah, I think we are still evaluating the plan to support something like Argo rollouts, whether it would be Argo rollouts or something else. But it may not really default to Argo rollouts. It could be something else as well. But yeah, we'll keep you updated in one of these streams on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is part of the cool thing about being an early adopter, right? With especially with Red Hat emerging technologies, right? We take a lot of these feedback to heart, right? So CMAC, who's a product manager, and myself, we talk to a lot of customers, and we take that feedback. And if it's a need, will definitely put money and engineering behind it. So there's this. So right now, it sounds like there's a lot of conversation going on about how we're going to handle like something like Canary releases.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, we do have folks inside Red Hat who are actually evaluating that a lot right now. So just to let you know that we are aware that that's an area we should probably be expanding to for our users and customers as well. Yeah.
So look, this is real time. So this is what's cool about doing a live stream, right?
Yeah.
Is that looks like Sealy has an update. They updated GitOps 1.3.1 and it indeed fixed the permission issue. So
Awesome. Thank you for
we
letting
created the
us know.
operator, and it worked out of the box. So there you go. See, there you go. Success story, right?
Yep. And in general,
fine.
like I said, if you can actually convey or communicate to us if any serious issues you're facing, we try to push out fixes within days if needed. So yeah, this would be one of those cases.
Yeah, I actually want to get to the actual repo you guys use. So, you guys GitOps. You guys are under the Red Hat developer, right?
Correct. Red Hat developer / GitOps operator. That would be the one.
Yes. So let me put that in the chat. So by the way, if you're a customer, right, do a support ticket always, right? But if you're in the upstream, just testing things out, that's the repo that Shoubhik's team works off of. So there you go, straight from the mouth, right? So
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for dropping that on the chat, Christian.
yeah. So there's there's that. Cool. So what else is what else is update on 1.3? Or can you tell us a little bit, maybe talk a little bit about the future in these last 10 minutes or so?
Yeah. So I'm going to do a quick thing in the last 10 minutes, actually. Some of the cache related things we're doing right now. So perfect time for asking about the future. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
So in general, I think I'll quickly give you an idea of some of the things that we're doing right now with caching, and they're going to continue for a while. In short, today when we set up Argo CD, it does a few things behind the scenes that you don't know about, which is it creates its own cache of the whole cluster state. And when it does so, it actually has a high CPU usage because of heavy JSON marshalling. It has a high memory usage because it's reading a bunch of Kubernetes resources across your cluster. We've actually had some very nice upstream improvements on those performance metrics. What that means is, for those who have dabbled with the Kubernetes APIs, you would understand this, that we've actually paginated those list calls to the Kubernetes API. That's been a good improvement. We've controlled the number of concurrent API calls that go to the API server when we warm up the cluster state. It's called warming up, because when your Argo CD comes up, it actually say, hey, get me all the information on the cluster so that I can work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, it's like, give me all the information and load it into memory, which is a lot of information if you think about it.
It's a lot of information. Yeah. So to be able to do that and still be productive with the real work that is GitOps, there are a bunch of improvements happening. We are gradually going to open up these as knobs that you can use for performance tuning. Some of them, so this is kind of a slide where we're going little details. There are multiple levels of caching that we do. One is no caching of your Git repositories to an absolute caching of your Git repositories, and we only check the cluster state. This is because in case you have a situation where you know that you don't push your applications more than once a week, so we're not going to go ahead and bombard your Git repo with a request every 3 minutes. You could potentially then say, hey, nothing's going to change for the next 1 week, so probably just look at it once in 4 days. But other than that, whatever you had within your memory, ensure nothing on the cluster has been messed up with. There are multiple levels, and we're going to gradually expose these. There's some interesting optimizations that have happened, and they will be available in this release, that the 1.3.1 or 1.3.0, which is we've actually been able to reduce the number of Git polls that happen from your cluster. This is an example we took from a test. And right after you would. So the way it works is, so today, what we do is we poll Git per Git repo. What that means is if Christian is using the same Git repo, I use the Git repo, we just poll it once to know if something has changed. Like not what has changed, but to know whether if something has changed. That's Git ls remote. Previously, we used to do it per application CR. So which means if there are 10 application CRs with the same Git repo, it would be done 10 times. But now we see, hey, all those 10 application CRs have the same Git repo. Let's just do it once.
That makes sense, right? So previously you were doing an ls remote, regardless of if when like if we're using the same repo, that would happen twice, right, instead of once.
Correct.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah. That'll
So
definitely. I can see why it's going trending down if you're only
right.
doing it once. Yeah.
Right. So there's a best case scenario, worst case scenario. Their best case, there's just one Git repo. Worst case, everyone has a different Git repo. But then it just optimizes it to ensure that whatever we can do to reduce the number of requests, let's do it with the amount of polling we do.
Yeah, there's a question about caching. And by the way, Celie, I do see your question. I'll ask it in a little bit. But William asks, are cache levels configured on a per Argo City instance, or can it be set on a per app basis?
So right now it's on a per Argo City instance. It's not on the app basis yet, but there's
Okay, so
been work going on. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's a one shot. So it's like globally.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is it's one shot globally. The bad thing is it's one shot globally.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, good news, bad news, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right, and then the other bit is there's an improvement we did. You don't really have to put your secret in some of the existing configuration secrets. If you have a Git repo, you would actually put into a new secret and just put in this label, and Argo CD would know that you're talking about credentials for repositories. You don't have to.
By the way, this is my favorite thing. By the way,
Yeah.
this update because if for those of you who don't know, if you used it in the past, this was like in different places, and now there's like a central way to manage not only your Git credentials but access to that Git credentials, right? It kind of serves like two purposes. So this is like one of my favorite things. I'm using it all the time now. So especially in your declarative approach to deploying Argo CD.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is something that would actually make it easy for you to configure an external secrets mechanism and pull it in, because this can be an isolated secret altogether. You don't have to lump it into other secrets if you don't want to. Yeah, and the other thing is, yeah, as I mentioned previously, when that happened, we actually needed to some of the internal config maps that we use here. You could actually reference any secret rather than very specific secrets. Nothing too interesting, but yeah. The other interesting thing that we did is we have health checks for OpenShift deployment config and OpenShift routes. Use it and let me know if they're working to your needs. We'll be happy to improve them. It could be in one of the patch releases or in one of the minor releases or major releases. But then, yeah, we are going to ensure we'll listen to feedback on this to ensure that we act on them.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and I don't want to you build. I mean, I do, but I know it's not possible you building Argo CD just for me. But one of the things that I like doing,
we could,
because I mean, you could, right? But like, I would like to hear like other people's feedback on like what would be what's a good default. I think for a lot of engineers, it's really hard to say, okay, what's a good default, because there's so many snowflakes cases, right? Edge use cases, and it's hard to choose like a sane default. But what I always do is I install the operator, and then I have to patch the Argo CD instance to ignore the host field for my routes. And
right.
That's because I always set that host field to blank, because if I'm deploying an application to multiple clusters, that host field is always going to be different. And I don't necessarily want to make I don't want to store the FQDN on my Git.
Oh yeah, and I think that's the best part about routes in general, right? You don't have
Yeah.
to provide that host compared to an ingress object. And
so when Argo CD says like, wait, you set the host to blank, but this is the actual route, right? Like the FQDN, like it'll say the differences. So I always have to patch it to ignore those differences. So that could be a potential ignore.
Agreed.
Default,
yeah.
So
I think that's the same thing I do. Yeah, and there are actually my repo actually has a bunch of them as well. And but it's just that it's in the repo all the time, and hey, this works. But then I realized for people who are starting out, they probably have to do it afresh, and we need to have something more out of the box for that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think that's a good
Cool.
feedback. Thank you.
See here. So there is a question, Celie. I know we might go a little bit over, but that's cool. We have Celie asked actually about the Argo image updater. Any plans to include that as part of OpenShift GitOps? Yep.
Yes, we do.
There you go.
It should be very soon.
There you go. Jan would be happy. I know he worked a lot on that. So here, just some more questions here. So William asked, the wish list is make the default dynamic, so they figure it out. They meaning the process based on what they need to process at a given time. Oh, so kind of like an AI driven. Um,
No, William did not mean that. You're putting words in his mouth, Christian.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't mean that. I'm just saying. I'm like, well, that's
I know,
like
yeah.
the So I like ignoring the specific fields, right? Because it's a um it's it'll make it ignoring specific fields make you can kind of tailor it to your workflow. So that's
Yeah.
really cool here. So yeah, HPA for Argo CD processes, right? So cool. So
I think that's it from the
mhm.
updates from my side, Christian. Over to you.
Yeah. So sweet. So so thank you, by the way, for sharing all that. And I think the viewers always enjoy having like a sneak preview or having the engineers talk, because like people like me in product management, right? We tend to give you a lot of fluff, right? But like when the engineers talk, they talk, they talk tech, and I think people appreciate that. So I do appreciate that here. So we have a few minutes here. I don't know if you guys have any more questions. We'll give it another couple minutes here or so. Ask your questions in the chat, either via YouTube or Twitch. We'll all get them. They'll all aggregate that. So Waleed said it was informative. Thank you. Remember to subscribe, like, share. Right? I feel like an influencer already. Please hit subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff. I certainly appreciate it. So, and I actually have a bit of something you guys can help me out with. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. If I can copy it. There we go. Oh, we are rounding out our year here. I believe there's only like 3 episodes left in this year. Then this show's going to take a little break. We're coming back next year, right? Stronger, better than ever. We have an amazing team, right? Red Hat, this new team that is handling all the streams for us. I know I appreciate it. Andrew Sullivan appreciates it. I know we've talked about it. It's been great to see how much the show has grown. So what I'm asking is, I'm dropping this in the chat here, is I'm actually conducting a survey about the show. Right, we've been doing this for a little bit over a year, maybe almost 2 years now. This is the second break we're going to be taking, but I'm running a survey. Right, go ahead and take the survey. Just a quick, 5 questions about what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. We've been we did this kind of ad hoc, right, during the whole pandemic, and it's really great how the show's been growing here. So please take some time. I appreciate you filling out the survey. A few people already filled it out. I'm going to be mentioning this until the new year. I'm going to try to collect some information these next months here. So I do appreciate that. Also, if you don't see it, my Twitter handle is here, right? So you can follow me on Twitter or GitHub, same handle on both sides here. And then I think one last thing. I did have one last thing here. No, I think that's it. Oh yeah, so the survey. Next episode, right? We're gonna have Alex Collins. I think Shoubhik, you know him from Intuit. Alex Collins from Intuit's coming along, talking about Argo CD workflows. So you guys, we kind of mentioned before about workflows and rollouts. Alex Collins, he's from Intuit, one of the engineers in workflows. We're going to talk about Argo workflows. So that's cool. Don't miss that. So I guess with that, we're at the top of the hour. Appreciate you guys watching. Again, Shoubhik, appreciate you stopping by. So as always, as I always like to close out the show, or at least as someone told me I should close out the show, is that if it's not in Git, it's only a rumor. So thank you, everyone, and stay safe out there. Bye, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.